Let me look at your hand. You have a very strange line.
See, according to this, you're already dead.
I live in New York, about 45 minutes to an hour north of New York City. No, we don't have skyscrapers up this way. But we have lots of greenery, apple orchards, pumpkin patches, the home of Seabiscuit and George Washington's first headquarters. We're rich in history, farmers, and slums up this way. I was raised in a slum ghetto up here, about 10 minutes away from the nearest farm. Can you guess which city? Probably not, but I'll give you an obvious hint. Can you say O.C. Choppers? So, anyway, my first experience was back in 2006, I think. I can't really recall the specific year. My family home had a fire, and we had to move back down to Rockland County. I think I was 15 or 16, maybe. My mother, brother, and I were on our way back to the old home in Haverstraw from a family gathering in the Bronx. My grandpa had died the same day of the fire or the day before. So, on the way back from the gathering, something was said that ticked my mother off, and she pulled into a gas station, clicked off my seatbelt, reached over me and told me, "Get the fuck out of my car and walk home." In tears at dusk, I get out of her car, and I'm so upset at this point, but there's nothing I can do but abide by her wishes. So, here are a few small details. That gas station? It's the one of two in an intersection that is easily 6 miles away from Haverstraw. Number 2, the way home? 6 miles, maybe more, on a dark, windy 2-lane highway, which was so dark I had to use my Nokia cell phone to see where I was going. Number 3, I was wearing a denim miniskirt, short-sleeve top, and some Air Forces. Perfect victim wear. 4, my mother and I have a tumultuous relationship, and that day was really bad. I'm still currently estranged from her. Like, I'll never allow her back in my life type of relationship. Back to abiding by my ever-so-wise mother's wish. I get out, begging her not to leave me, but I begin to walk as she peels away. A lady smoking a cigarette by her car says, "Hey, sweetheart, you okay?" Me, "I'll be okay. Can I have one of those?" The lady looked at me, asked my age, and then said, "Never mind. A mom wouldn't let a baby walk home dressed like that." I knew what she was passively asking, but I was not going to offer her my age when I desperately was in need of a cigarette at this point. I also knew I wasn't dressed inappropriately. I mean, yeah, it was a mini skirt, but it was hot as balls that day, except now post-dusk and it was really effing dark and getting cold up in the mountains. The lady gave me 2 cigarettes and her lighter and said, "God bless." And at the time in my mind I'm thinking, fuck a bless, give me a ride. So I said thank you and was on my merry way. I lit the first smoke and started walking. As I'm walking towards Haverstraw, I'm making observations I've never noticed before. Like, wow, this road is insanely dark. Why aren't there any lamppost lights? I'm talking, I can't see my hand in front of my face dark. So I pull out my Nokia and light my way, making sure I stay near the guardrail and off the road so nobody hits me. But if you're familiar with this area, then you know I can't walk off the road on either side of the rail because it has a ditch running alongside them. I stop, clip the cigarette, and proceed to walk. I'd stopped crying at this point and was actually starting to sing. I'm talking really singing because it was dark. I was alone, and I was not into the thought of possibly getting run over by a deer, and getting mauled by a bear, or being prey to a wolf. Yeah. So, go me. My song was Make It Through the Rain by Mariah Carey. I'm at the end of the song when I start smelling this nasty, pungent aroma that had me gagging. It was so gross. And then I had this thought that made me pray, oh, please don't let it be a dead girl. My imagination went wild, all the thoughts of finding a person on the side of the road, and the length of time it took me to find what had me traumatizing myself with all these what-ifs. I started to curse my mom with every swear in my mental archive. It was, of course, a deer, but oh my God, was it gross. So I lit that cigarette back up to mask the smell of decomposition. At this point, no car has passed me at all. I'd been walking for 25 minutes or more, and not even dear old Mummy circled back for her young. My mind started to become paranoid. Mind you, this was the only way for me to get home. This road. No shortcut, just straight through. And what if I'm in danger? What if somebody is lurking beyond the trees? If somebody wanted me, they could get me. I'm a perfect victim, and I could end up on the side of the road like that deer. Deadass. It was like meant to be for my thoughts to be that way, because all of a sudden, a truck pulled up next to me. The cabin light was turned on, and it was a red pickup truck with a 2-seat cabin. I can clearly see across to this old man. I can also see somewhat in the flatbed. Now, when I say old man, remember, I'm 16 at the time, and old is much older than 16. He had salt and pepper hair, these beautiful eyes, a stepdad look to him, and a strong build to his shoulders. Need a ride? Never talk to strangers, right? No, thank you. I appreciate the offer. What's a pretty little thing like you doing out here in the dark? You're a little too young to be out at this time, don't you think? Yeah, he called me pretty. I've seen this on Lifetime before. I'm dead. Yeah, you're right, but my house is a couple of driveways down. Nice call. There are homes on the bottom of the mountain. You can run for it if you need to, but you have no clue how far the next driveway is, and you're on the wrong side of the road, genius. He looked at me and said, "Come on, I'll drive you to your house. You're on the wrong side of the road anyways." I about died when he said that. I was wondering all the time this was going down if I was speaking my thoughts out loud, and his face showed he was going to be persistent in persuading me to hop in his truck. Needless to say, that clip burned out, so I lit the second cigarette while taking a good long look at his face and build. I couldn't see the model or make of the vehicle because he was literally hugging me to the rail. Any more and I would have been pinned. This is when I also peeked into the bed of his pickup. Side note, this may be brazen, but at this point my NYPD uncle's words came to me about us meaning his nieces, being in situations like this. 1, always know your captor's description. 2, what kind of vehicle is he driving if he's driving? 3, if you're taken, fight like hell and take some DNA with you. 4, don't quit. Quitting is death. Be smart about your next move. He had had one too many when he told me this, but I still carry these words around. So I take a deep inhale of my cigarette, knowing it's going to be my last, and I give him an angelic smile. I blow the smoke in his face and say as convincingly as possible while looking in his eyes, "Look, I want to thank you so much for your help, but I'm really close to home, and my boyfriend will be coming down this road any minute to meet me there. You're kind of holding me up from my curfew, too. My parents are going to be pissed as shit." His eyes got dark. Telling the story right now is really creeping me out, because it's as if I'm there on that dark road again. He says, "Yeah, okay," and pulls off. No cars yet except him, and while this whole thing is happening, I'm praying, wishing, hoping for a car, preferably a state trooper, to pass by and see this guy idling. So I'm watching him pull away and quickly glancing again into his truck bed for unwanted people. I glanced at my cig and noticed it went out, so I lit it up again, cupping the flame. I look up, and the bastard has stopped almost 50 feet away. So now I'm in full panic mode. I start walking super slow and start planning to cross the road and run down the mountainside to the nearest house with lights. But what about spiders? Oh, fuck spiders. This is your life, kid. Get it together. I'm counting my steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Run on 10, girl. You will survive tonight. 5, 6. Another car pulls up to me. The window rolls down, and this gorgeously delicious-looking man looks at me and says in a stern voice, "Get in, now." He didn't have to tell me twice. I flick my cigarette, get in the car, and he reaches over and clicks my seatbelt. This is insane, I think to myself. This guy could be the real kidnapper. He could be my killer, and now I'm fucked. He peels off and flips off the guy in the truck, and he says to me, "How old are you?" "You shouldn't be out here at this time, and you shouldn't talk to strangers." I said, "Ditto. So are you going to kill me? Tell me the truth, please, because I just want to prepare myself." "No, I'm your knight in shining armor, love. That guy in the pickup? A girl just jumped out of the bed of his flatbed at the gas station a couple of miles back saying she needed help and to call 911 because she'd been kidnapped." I was immediately nauseous and began to see black spots behind my eyelids. He must have sensed my inner turmoil because he grabbed my hand and said, "I was at the counter when all this happened. I overheard a lady telling 911 that there was a young lady walking all alone down the road, and he peeled out of the parking lot going towards Haverstraw. I flew down this road to find you, and I'm glad I did, or you could have been his victim. Now, where can I drop you off?" I should have got his name, number, and then married him, but I will never forget that man who saved my life. About 10 years ago, I was working as a waitress at a local diner and living in a low-income apartment. The apartments were brand new and beautiful. To this day, it was the nicest apartment inside that I've ever lived in. I lived on the 3rd floor, and outside it looked nice as well. The landscaping was kept up, and they had these tall and thick, pretty flowering hedges that wrapped around the building. But due to some drug activity, it wasn't always the safest, and it was normal to see needles, burned and bent up spoons, condoms, and all that kind of stuff. We also lived right on a river, close to a downtown area. Less than a mile away, there were some homeless shelters and a place called the Daily Bread, where anyone in need could go for a meal. So it wasn't unusual to see homeless people on the road outside my apartment complex, or sleeping on benches by the playground. They never bothered me, though. I usually worked mornings at my job, but every once in a while, I would fill in for someone on the swing shift, 4 to 11. I usually kept my tips in my apron for a few days and then deposited the money on my way home. This particular Sunday, our busiest day, I had worked the morning shift and had done really well. So when I heard they were short-handed for swing shift, I volunteered to work a double. I ended up doing really well on that shift as well. Clocked out at 9:30 with about $250 in my apron. I stopped at my bank to make a deposit through the ATM and got home around 10:15. So I pull up and I see that I have a spot fairly close to the stairwell. It's dark, but I can see that there's no one else around. I park and walk past the hedge and turn right to go up the stairs. When out of the corner of my eye, I can see a man between the hedge and the building. I look to the right and I can see that he is smoking a cigarette, wearing jeans and a black shirt, and he's covered in paint, like he was a house painter. He looked like he was on drugs, wide-eyed and a little crazed. He saw me look at him. I felt creeped out because I had not seen him from my car, and I was wondering why he was standing out of the light and hiding behind the hedge. So I start to take the stairs 2 at a time. I get to the top of the first flight of stairs when I hear someone following me. I look back, and it was the man. We made eye contact, and he was already halfway up the stairs and running at me. I start running too and freaking out internally, because even if I beat him upstairs, I still need to unlock my door. My roommate and I usually keep it locked, and I just kept running as fast as I could. When I got to the top of the second flight, he was like 4 steps behind me. I ran harder and debated screaming for help. I get to the top of the 3rd flight, and I'm still 15 feet from my door, and he's almost on me. I can hear him breathing hard. His eyes were bulging. His arms were outstretched to grab me. He was a foot away from me, and my apartment was still 10 feet away. I inhale and open my mouth to scream as loud as I can for help, when my 6'4", buff-as-F construction worker neighbor opens his apartment door to come out for a smoke. I let out a scream that started in horror, but trailed off in relief as my neighbor saw what was happening and started running to me. The man turned right around and sprinted off, and my neighbor chased him to the 2nd floor, and then ran back up and yelled for his girlfriend to call the cops. At this point, I'm a hyperventilating, crying, and shaking puddle on the ground. My neighbor comforts me and gets my best friend and roommate to come help me. I thought that man was going to catch me and hurt me. And looking back, it's more likely that he was trying to rob me because I was still wearing my work apron and it was late. We made a police report where the cop told us that a day labor company for the homeless had a painting contract that they were currently working. Cops made a point to start doing more drives through our complex, and my roommate and I bought mace and started calling each other to come watch the other person come upstairs if it was dark at night when we got home. So, to the man covered in paint and hiding in my hedges, let's never meet again. Never, ever.